You know, life's full of big decisions, like getting married, changing careers, deciding if you're actually going to use that gym membership. But financially speaking, buying a house is the heavyweight champ of all decisions. And when you make a move that big, you want the right people in your corner. Not just any team, your team. I once had a buyer client say, well, the bank has an attorney, so if they look at everything, I'm good, right? And I said, okay, question. Who does the bank's lawyer work for? And he blinks and says, the bank. Ding, 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 that's correct. So no, you are not good. Look, this isn't buying a latte. This is a legally binding, life-altering financial contract. You need somebody representing you. Because sometimes things go sideways. And yes, I've seen it happen. A mistake in real estate can cost more than a Harvard education with far fewer networking opportunities. Now, to be fair, most real estate deals in the U.S. go off without a hitch. Maybe a little delay here, a quirky inspection there, but no big deal. But if they go bad, they go really bad. So today, we're diving into the legal side of real estate closings. My guest is a seasoned real estate attorney who's seen it all. Closings, complications, and probably a few clients on the verge of tears. Please welcome Andy Schwartz of Crowley and Cummings. Andy, thanks again for joining us.
My pleasure. Nice to be here, Mike.
So, tell us a little bit about you and how you got into real estate law.
Sure.
And your path.
Sure. So I went to law school, seems like quite a long time ago, and I guess it was over 30 years ago. And I did not go intending to be a real estate lawyer. Probably most people don't. You know, it's not considered to be one of the more exciting areas of the law.
Sure.
As a college student, certainly.
Right.
I think a lot of people go in dreaming of being litigators.
And
or
you were watching LA Law.
Exactly. That was
Yep.
a big show at the time.
Yep.
But once I got out of law school, I did start dabbling in some real estate in various different environments.
Sure.
And I really liked it. And
Yep.
I started working with my father-in-law. He was an attorney for many years. And one of the things he did was real estate, and he introduced me to that. And I did a number of other things at the same time, but then eventually kind of narrowed it down and decided that real estate really was what I wanted to focus on.
And I think it's important that when people go out and look for an attorney, that they find someone that specializes in what they need.
Yes.
Because too often, I found somebody that hangs a shingle and does a little bit of everything can drop the ball here and there.
Yes, I mean, there are certainly some attorneys who do that, and they do a fine job.
Sure.
But you're right. I mean, everything has become specialized. You know, I always liken it to the medical profession. There are very few general practitioners anymore.
Right.
You know, if you break your leg, you go to an orthopedic surgeon. If you need heart surgery, you go to a cardiologist. And, you know, don't mix up the two.
Right.
Similar with lawyers, I think. You know, if you need a real estate lawyer, it's good to have one who is only doing real estate, or mostly at least doing real estate.
Right. And specifically real estate closings.
Real estate closings, transactional work.
Right.
Correct.
In your case.
Right. I mean, there are other areas of real estate law that I don't specialize in. There's real estate litigation.
Yep.
There are
Landlord-tenant law.
Landlord-tenant, municipal, zoning, hearings, things like that. But I and my firm that I'm at, Crowley and Cummings, focuses primarily on transactional work.
And is there, when it comes to the banks and lenders, do they have a preferred list that they go to, or?
Typically they do. There are some larger national lenders that are much more lenient about that. There are obviously still some minimum requirements that you have to do a closing. You have to have
Yep.
certain equipment, certain setups as far as your systems and processes. You have to be typically a title agent, title insurance
Okay.
agent, and there's a lot of vetting that goes on with that.
Really? Okay.
But then even beyond that, there are some lenders that have a very small list or a list that they guard
Prefer.
much more closely, right?
Yep.
And you have to go through a lot more vetting and a lot more analysis
Right.
on that. And my firm, we're lucky we're on most lenders' lists in Massachusetts, pretty much. There are a few, I think, but
I mean,
very
we've
few.
done several transactions together, and I've never seen a lender say, "Oh, well, you're not on my list," this type of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's nice. It allows us also to close all over Massachusetts, and then we also close in all of the other New England states, except for Vermont. We don't close in Vermont, but we close in Maine, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Rhode Island,
Yeah.
and then we also have an affiliated company down in Florida, so we
Yep.
can handle Florida transactions as well.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what the role of a closing attorney does.
Sure. So kind of is twofold depending on who we're representing, either a seller or a buyer.
Okay.
Attorneys.
Let's start with the sellers
Okay.
first.
Sure, absolutely. And it should be common knowledge, but I'll just say that the same attorney cannot represent both the seller and the buyer.
No. And that's a very good point, because I think a lot of the viewers may not know that. The average person probably buys 3 or 4 homes in their lifetime,
Right,
so it's not a common practice for them.
right, right.
So it's, again, as a real estate broker, things that we take for granted, and of course everybody knows this. They don't.
Right.
So it's a good point.
Yes, we do get calls on that sometimes, and people maybe want to save some money. They don't want to pay for a second attorney, but it is a conflict
Exactly.
of interest. You cannot represent both parties. So when we're representing the seller, typically we'll get brought in either at the listing stage. A broker like yourself will contact me and say, I've got a seller coming up, and we check the title to the property if we're asked to at the beginning, before the listing even goes live, because we want to get a sense of what is the picture of the title. And
Of
if there are
course.
any issues, we'd like to start working on them early.
Speaking of that,
Yes.
way back when I started real estate in the 1900s, my second sales transaction got held up because of a cloud on title. And we had to wait a year. Of course, that buyer went away and had to start the process all over. Of course, it was successful. I sold the property and it was fine. In fact, I still have the new buyer as a client over in West Newton. But had I had someone like you then, we would have found out that there was a cloud on title before it was listed.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It saves
Avoid a lot of pain.
a lot of pain, a lot of time, a
Yep.
lot of possible money also.
Yes. Big time.
expense. Yeah. So it's a good thing to do. And then we typically mostly get involved again once the seller accepts an offer. Our role at that point is to draft the purchase and sale agreement, negotiate that with the buyer's attorney.
How is the purchase and sale agreement different? In Massachusetts, there's the system of the offer to purchase,
Yes.
which is a binding contract, and then typically you'll have the inspection, and then it goes to the P&S.
Right.
How are those two contracts different?
So the P&S is a much more detailed document, a lengthier document. Typically, it's anywhere between 8 to 12 pages, depending on how wordy the attorneys are, how much they like to hear themselves talk on paper.
Right.
But the offer to purchase is a much shorter document. It contains all the key terms.
Correct.
So it's got to contain the price. It's got to contain any dates that are involved. It has to contain any contingencies, be they on the buyer or the seller side, such as an inspection contingency, a mortgage contingency, home sale contingency, things like that.
And the broker commission.
And the broker commission, of course. And then
Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. That was
so
all.
many states only have one document, like you alluded to.
It
Near
goes
us,
straight to purchase and sale.
Connecticut and Rhode Island are like that. They go straight to a single document. There are some different contingencies in that document because it's only one bite at the apple, so to speak. But the purchase and sale agreement here in Massachusetts, that's our system of doing it. So it just becomes that second document. And then once that gets signed, it takes over. It becomes the contract, and the offer is superseded, as we say.
So now when it comes to protecting the sellers or the deposits involved, what is your role there?
So typically when we're representing the buyer, flipping over to the other side, we're still negotiating the purchase and sale, but we also want to make sure that the buyer's deposit is protected. And there are certain benchmarks. It depends on the transaction. Each one is a little bit different.
Right. What are those benchmarks? Can you give us an example?
Sure. So sometimes, and we're seeing, a lot of deals recently in the overheated market that the buyers are waiving all contingencies.
Right.
So in that
And there's
circumstance,
been some talk in the Massachusetts legislature about inspections.
yes, yes. So there's a law that's going to take effect in June, I think June 15th, that will prohibit sellers from refusing to accept an offer that contains an inspection contingency. Or even the broker can't kind of signal to the buyer brokers, hey, if you want your buyer's offer to be accepted, don't put in an inspection contingency.
I see.
They're not going to be able to do that anymore. But previously, they could do that.
How would that affect a builder developer?
I don't think that, it's, I think the law is the law, but you frequently don't see home inspections when it's new construction.
Right.
You can.
Builder developer,
Yeah,
if it's a tear down,
yeah.
so.
Yeah, I mean, you've got your, you need the certificate of occupancy in order to be able to close. And we do see negotiated a lot of times that the buyer can still come in and do a walkthrough or bring an inspector in before closing to identify any punch list items, any things that may still need to be completed.
Oh, I see, on new construction.
On new construction,
okay.
correct.
Yeah. We just mentioned new legislation. How have you seen the, lack of a better word, the evolution of the changes we saw last year with regard to compensation on the broker side?
So it's been a hot topic for sure. I'm sure probably our viewers may have seen that in the news. There's been a lot of stories.
Social media has been splashed all over.
Exactly.
Yep.
It pretty much, it's been going on for quite a while, but it kind of came to a head last year. There are and were these very large class action lawsuits that were filed. There is one in Massachusetts as well. The most notorious one that people probably saw in the news was from Missouri, called the Sitzer-Burnett case. And essentially there were attorneys that got a bunch of sellers together to file a class action to say that if we're sellers, we shouldn't be paying the buyer agent commission. And it was eventually determined to be anti-competitive. And so the laws were changed, and the National Association of Realtors changed their practice.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The Massachusetts documents, from my understanding, were more transparent, and the listing agreement stated, look, the commission may be shared with another office, a cooperating office, to get the deal done. And some other states, they were not as transparent.
And in other states, the commissions are higher, believe it or not, than they are in Massachusetts. The numbers were higher. It was not uncommon to see 6% commissions in a lot of those states, sometimes even higher. So,
but they are always negotiable.
They are.
Okay.
They were, and they have been always negotiable.
Exactly.
But
they've
I
always
think
been
that
negotiable.
message wasn't getting through.
Correct.
So the biggest change really now is that in Massachusetts, buyer agents must have their buyers sign a contract, for lack of a better word, a buyer compensation agreement.
And I'll raise my hand and take responsibility, because I think the brokers within the industry, we did ourselves a disservice by not explaining things as well as we should have.
I mean, buyer agents bring tremendous value to a transaction.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, the perception sometimes is out there that they don't. But
it goes back to that, that old cliche of the tip of the iceberg. Clients see us put a sign on the lawn, hold an open house, and then, oh, here, sign here, and we get this enormous check. It's not that simple, and there's a lot more going on.
I like the analogy I like is the duck, on the pond. You see the duck moving along smoothly, but his legs are kicking
That's right.
like hell under the water, and that's
That's right.
what really brokers do.
Right.
There are a lot of moving parts. So,
Yes.
can you purchase a property without, if you're a buyer, without a buyer agent? Sure. And there are some deals that we are seeing where there is no buyer agent. The buyers are going directly to the listing broker, and sometimes they work out fine, but occasionally they don't.
And, in this country, the system that has evolved in our area is straightforward. I think the other agents and the attorneys I work with are all educated and upfront. However, as I mentioned before in this conversation, people do this 3 or 4 times in their lifetime, and markets change. The system changes. An old timer once said to me, Michael, a mistake in real estate can cost more than a Harvard education. And it is absolutely true. I've seen it a few different times where all hell broke loose. So it's hard to prove a negative in the sense of, gee, I bought a house 2 or 3 times and everything was fine. Why do I need this? Well, you don't want to find out why.
Right.
So,
Right. Right. The whole idea of broker compensation, and we're not seeing, I don't know what your experience has been, but when this all kind of started back last year when the rules
Yes.
changed in August of last year, there was a feeling that, there would be a lot of sellers who did not want to pay a buyer agent commission.
correct.
And really, I'm not seeing that very much at all. There are a few cases, yes, but the great majority of them, the buyer agent compensation has just become another term of negotiation, just like
Correct.
the price, just like dates, anything else. The big difference is that the listing agents are no longer posting on the MLS,
Right.
we are offering X% to buyer agents.
Correct. And
The buyer agents are now coming to the listing agent saying, my buyer's offer includes the provision that your seller is going to pay me a certain percent, and most of them I'm seeing, they're accepting it.
right. And, it evolved. Honestly, when I worked with a buyer throughout my career, I would always get that buyer agreement. And there are many agents that didn't. So for me, the playing field was leveled. It's like, okay, I'm not the oddball playing by the rules, being rigid. It's like, no, everybody, okay, you have to sign the consumer notice, saying, okay, I represent this person. And if I do X, this is what you'll pay me.
Right.
So, it's a good thing in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Transparency.
Absolutely. And I've seen, some creative things, depending on the deal. I just had a closing recently where the buyer had agreed to pay the buyer agent just a flat fee, an actual dollar amount, rather than a percentage. Part of the deal there was that, the agent had agreed, and it was probably lower than what the agent would have accepted normally, but the agent was also hoping to get the buyer's sale on that
On
side.
the other side.
So kind of, a two for
And
one, basically.
but that's business.
Right.
That's, I don't feel that there's a conflict there. It's, you're negotiating.
Correct.
And as we know, all of the commissions are negotiable.
Right.
So we were talking about buyers.
Yes.
Tell me about the Homestead Act.
So this is a great law that exists in Massachusetts. Other states do have it, some version of it. It's a little bit different in different states. Some states don't have it at all.
Sure.
But basically the goal of it is, and it started way back probably in the 1800s, where at that time most property was owned by men,
Right.
by the husband/father.
Sure.
And the wife's name was not on the deed most
Right.
of the time. So the origin of it was to avoid, if the husband didn't pay his debts, that the wife and children were not thrown out in the street
I
and
see.
the house taken
Or
by
if the husband
creditors.
passed or something.
Or something like that, right. And it of course, has evolved. And really the idea is that once you have your primary residence, you automatically have some protection, what's called a homestead protection, that's your home.
Right.
and it is protected up to a certain amount automatically against attachment by creditors. So if
Right.
you were to get involved in a situation where somebody brings a lawsuit against you
Right.
and they put an attachment on the property,
You're a partner in a failed business.
right, or anything,
Yes.
for any reason, somebody gets a judgment in court against you,
Yep.
partner in a failed business, car accident that's not
Right.
covered by insurance. It could be a lot of different things.
Sure.
And
You
so
can't be thrown out of your
you
home.
can't be thrown out, and then when you sell,
Mm-hmm.
the first 125,000 of equity is preserved. Now,
Gotcha.
that's the automatic homestead.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have the declaration of homestead.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just a document that gets recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
And is that the $35 one?
That's $35.
It's very expensive.
Right.
It's probably the best $35 you'll ever spend.
Absolutely, because it provides now $1 million of protection of equity. Until last year, it was 500,000. It had gone up
I thought that was,
over the years.
I noticed that when we were talking about getting together for this show, that it used to be 500, and I'm like,
Right.
wow, it went up to $1 million.
Right.
And if there's two people, it doubles. Or
Only
if they're seniors.
If they're over 65
Right,
or disabled,
Yep.
then they can stack it.
Yep.
But otherwise, no, it's just $1 million for the couple.
And for good reason. We're keeping up with where property has appreciated.
Right.
500K will get you a parking space in Boylston Street. I mean,
Right. Right. It was
So-
long overdue for an increase,
yes.
but I'm glad that it did, and it is absolutely the best $35. And the cool thing about it too is that it covers the owners as long as they own the property.
Yep.
It has nothing to do with having a mortgage or refinancing or paying off your mortgage.
Yep.
As long as it continues to be their primary residence, it has to be a primary residence. So if you have, let's say, somebody who has a condo
Yep.
and they have a homestead on that, and then they decide to buy another property,
Right.
go move to a bigger home perhaps, and keep
And
the
rent
condo as rented, then it would no longer protect it.
Okay. So there are some limitations here and there.
There are, and it's also doesn't protect you against your own lender. Obviously, if
Right.
you don't pay your mortgage,
Sure.
the lender can still foreclose, and
Right.
it doesn't protect you against the state or the federal government if you don't pay your taxes. The IRS
Of course,
or
they're
the Mass
gonna
Department
keep
of Revenue
their-
can still come after. you.
Right.
Right. But other than that, it's pretty much all covering.
What are the common mistakes that a buyer will make
I think. Well, in what part of the process?
in purchasing a home? The mistakes that they might make that you've seen, where a transaction gets held up.
I think one of the biggest issues that we see with buyers is not responding to their lender's requests quickly enough. It can be a difficult process. It can be a frustrating process if people are not maybe that familiar with
What they need to do.
financial forms, or maybe some people are not as computer savvy as some other folks. But the lender, and if you're working with a good loan officer, the lender will be able to guide you through that process.
Sure.
And
And that's gotten a lot tougher
It
since
has.
'08.
it has. There's a lot of things, a lot of hoops, a lot of
Right.
sausage being
Yes.
made behind the scenes
Right.
with the lenders and underwriting and getting approved.
Yep.
And people sometimes get frustrated, and I hear that and they're saying, well, this lender, they've asked me for the same document 4 times now, and I've sent them my bank statement.
Right.
But then it goes to the underwriter, and the underwriter has a question, and they have
Right.
to explain something.
Right.
So what I tell my clients is now that you're a buyer, your part-time job is to reply to your lender's
Yes.
requests as quickly as possible to keep the process moving.
Right. Because if it takes you 4 or 5 months to get your offer accepted, that pre-approval may be only good for 3 months.
Right, right. The information is stale. They need to update
So
it.
they need to update it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. The other big thing that I've seen, 2 things that I've seen buyers do that are huge,
No-nos?
huge no-nos. One is quit your job. It seems, straightforward, but believe it or not, people do, and they
Or
leave.
start your own business.
And they leave their job, or start your own business, because then there's all kinds of different requirements for documentation. Or even as something as simple as doing something to affect your credit score, like going to Jordan's Furniture and opening up a Jordan's credit card
Oh, we're
2
gonna
weeks before we're gonna
right.
buy all this furniture. That's a big no-no.
No, buyers, the lender checks your credit score and your credit 2 or 3 days before you close to make sure that everything's still kosher. Okay? Definitely don't go out and buy a new car between the time of the purchase and sale and the time that you close.
Right.
Big no-no.
Right. And most loan officers will make sure to tell the buyers that, but sometimes they don't listen.
Right. And sometimes if the buyer doesn't have an agent
Right.
to keep them on their toes and to guide them through these steps.
Yep.
So what's the craziest thing you've ever seen at a closing?
So a number of years ago, well, a couple come to mind. One, we have a lot of documents at the closing.
Sure.
Some lenders have a little bit more, some have a little bit less, but it's still a big pile of documents.
Yep.
They've been saying for years, it can all be electronically signed
Yep.
soon, in the near future, but
Right.
we're not there yet. The technology exists, but
Yep.
it hasn't quite caught up. The Commonwealth has actually allowed for what we call remote online notarization, which means you and I could be in a different room,
Yep.
and you can electronically sign your documents, and I can electronically notarize them.
A different room or a different
Different building,
property?
different.
Okay. So it
different
doesn't have to be
city.
the same. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
As long as it's within Massachusetts. However, the Registry of Deeds hasn't quite implemented the regulations to allow for that to be recorded yet. So
Okay.
the technology is there, but it's not quite, we're not ready for that. So as a result, we still have all the papers.
Gotcha.
I did have somebody come in a number of years ago, and she told me this up front, and I was glad she did. She says, I have, a little anxiety, and I have a thing where I need to know how many times I'm going to be signing my name.
Yep.
So we actually went and we looked at all the documents,
Yep.
and we told her, I forget the number, but it was a lot. It was,
Right, no,
like
it's-
200 maybe.
Yes.
And she said, okay. And then when she came in, she had a little pad next to her, and every time she signed her name, she made a little, tick mark.
Yep.
And then at the end, she went back and counted and made sure that all of the numbers matched up.
A little OCD, but
a little OCD, but
we all
we have to take people as we find them.
one of the craziest things I saw was we're at a closing. I was the listing agent, and the buyers were there, and the attorney said, "Okay, can I see your IDs?" Okay, and you're married, and they both said yes, and there was a bit of a pause, and they look at each other, and I'm going, something's not right. Like, well, not to each other.
All right.
The sale went through, and everybody lived, well, I assume everybody lived happily ever after.
I hope
But
so.
anyway.
I hope so. There is the urban legend.
Yes.
You hear a lot of people talking about it, about this is before, a number of years ago, probably 25, 30 years ago,
Yep.
where a couple came to the closing and the woman purported to be, Jane Smith,
Yep.
signed all the paperwork, and that was before people automatically checked driver's licenses. And everything closed, and it was a refinance, and the money got sent out and everything.
Oh, boy.
And
Yep,
about a
refinance.
week or so later, Jane Smith came into the law office and said, when is my refinance happening? And they said, what do you mean? It happened last week.
Yep.
Jane Smith was here. She said, that wasn't me.
Right.
So the husband had come in with
Oh, no.
his paramour, and the money was somewhere else. So,
Yes. Well,
now that wouldn't happen today. But
no. We only have probably 3 or 4 minutes left, but fraud is something that we're seeing a lot more of.
yes,
And I think we should touch upon this a little bit.
sure.
Most of our viewers probably know about the case in Concord where someone pretended to be the seller.
Yep.
They sold a vacant lot.
Yep.
The new buyer, developer, cut trees down, started building a house, and then the real buyer from the Carolinas called the city and said, "Where's my tax bill?"
Right.
And from then, all hell broke loose.
Yes.
So I know you have some information here about the registry. I think it's the registry and getting notification.
Yep. So you can, depending on which county, registries are by county in Massachusetts. So you can go on, you can go directly to the Secretary of State, and there are links to each registry there.
Yep.
Or you could go directly to the particular county. In here, we're in Middlesex.
Yep.
And Middlesex South is the Registry of Deeds, headquartered in Cambridge, but it covers all of Middlesex.
Yep.
And you can sign up to be alerted if a transaction on your property is recorded. Now, that's not going to stop somebody from recording a fake deed because it's
But at least you're going to
it's
be
after the fact.
notified.
But you'll be notified, and hopefully, in a situation like
Right.
that,
Toot sweet.
you would find
Yeah.
out right away before the developers started cutting down trees and
Right,
building
and
a
pouring
house.
concrete.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There are also ways that you can. I think there's a Google feature that you can sign up for as well.
Interesting.
that will kind of alert you when anytime anything is
It's kind
done
of
with
like
your
putting
property.
a freeze on your credit rating or something like that.
Right.
Um,
Right.
And did I hear something about a situation in Florida where somebody used AI as a
Yeah, the fraudsters are really getting sophisticated,
Yep.
and there's a lot of what they call deep fakes going on right now, where people
Right.
use either voice and they call and it sounds, if your voice is out there, my voice is out there now on this
That's right.
show.
Exactly.
So somebody can take a sampling of that and pretend to be either one
Right,
of us,
right.
or they could take this video and make a video, and it's going to look like us.
Right.
So this one in Florida, the title agent had some suspicions, had some red flags that it was not the seller,
Yep.
and she wanted to get on a Zoom call, and they actually had a way to impersonate the face of the seller. Now, it didn't go through. It was not, the technology fortunately still is not
Right, it was
100%
glitchy,
or
yeah.
that you could tell some
Yep.
things, but it's getting better. So,
And, well, if you haven't seen the video of the guy that's reporting to a judge somewhere where
Right.
his nephew or something changed the thing on his phone and he's showing up as an avatar as a cat, and he literally says, "Your Honor, I'm really not a cat."
right.
It's got to be similar technology because the cat is mimicking all of the features
Right.
as he speaks and looks.
Yeah, the technology is getting more and more sophisticated. It used
Yes.
to be, like you said, glitchy, or
Yep.
you could tell kind of this is not how a real person would talk. But every day, AI is getting smarter and
Oh yeah,
smarter
no,
and
it's
learning.
really incredible. I mean, it's fascinating and wonderful, but really scary at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, if you have any questions about this, feel free to give me a call. We're going to put my number up, and also you can email us. So, again, Andy, thanks for joining us. We hope
pleasure.
you enjoyed
Thanks,
it,
Mike.
and we'll have you back again.
Sounds great.
All right, thank
right.
you.